You're listening to the We Are Libertarians Network. Learn more at wearelibertarians.com.
Welcome to the Boss Hog Liberty Podcast. This is episode number 148 of Central Indiana's favorite podcast. I'm Jeremiah Morrell. Today I'm joined by our very special guest, Audrey Davis, my forever co-host, Dakota Davis, and who else?
Today's episode features Chris Lamb, who is the director of the Newcastle Career Center here in Henry County, Indiana. The Career Center is a great program that is offered to all of our local schools around here. We're going to be talking about Chris's background, where he came from, and also all about the Career Center. So we had Stephen Vitito on, which was all about the Newcastle Career Center's welding program, but this is an overview of the whole thing. I am a Career Center alum, and so is my wife. So we are...
well, yeah, but Audrey doesn't even have a career anymore, so how did that work out?
I did, and it was related.
It was. We both went into the fields that were related to our Career Center classes. I think it's a great program. She thinks it's a great program. I'm sure that Chris Lamb also thinks that they are all great programs.
Absolutely.
So we are going to be talking all about those, and make sure you stick around to the end to hear some of Jeremiah's very special final thoughts.
This show is about our lives in rural Indiana. We're here to push your boundaries and make you think as individuals. Sometimes we will provoke you. Other times we'll make you laugh. Tonight we'll make you laugh, I promise. Other times, hopefully, you'll always learn something new. And I think you're going to learn something new tonight.
For sure.
Oh, man. So, got one of our big time patrons right in the studio, Dakota.
That's right.
You've been putting his name last, but I think we ought to rethink this a little bit.
I put his name last because I was going to do a drum roll.
Oh,
but
all right. You
blew it.
You do. I screw up a lot of stuff.
You can sign up at patreon.com/BossHogOfLiberty. Those are the folks that help support the show. They are also the folks that pay the bills around this place and make it to where we are able to get a nice thermostat to where now Chris is comfortable. Last week, Tom Saunders was not comfortable.
His teeth were chattering. It was bad.
Yeah. So we appreciate all those folks. The tiers start at $5 a month, and you get different rewards for different tiers. So you can get stickers in some tiers, which are on their way. We just ordered some brand new die cut stickers, so they will be coming in the mail for the folks that have signed up in the last month and a half or so, or 2 months probably. And we also have some postcards that we have. And then if you donate at $50 or more a month, then we give you a shout out at the front of every episode. Those folks are Jonathan Phillips, Craig DaCosta from all the way in Hawaii, Christy Avery in Fort Wayne, and of course, Chris Lamb, our guest tonight. Yeah. So we appreciate those folks greatly. Appreciate everything that they do. We also have the T-Chip stores, and that is where you can buy your Boss Hog of Liberty merchandise. tchip.com/BHOL1, 2, or 3. Those are all of our different T-shirts, and they move up in quality and price, 1, 2, or 3. So 1 is very basic. 3 has our
that
logo on the
Lexus
front.
Of the T-shirts. And
it also has our Local Stories National Impact slogan on the back. And then we also have the Polar Plunge. That is our fundraiser for the January and the month of February that we are getting ready to go into. We are supporting a local person for the Polar Plunge for the Special Olympics fundraiser. Producer Chris, if you want to find the link to where they can donate directly to her campaign and put it in the live stream comments. We also have it up on our Facebook page if you're listening later and want to find it there.
Really cool crowdsourcing fundraising going on with the Polar Plunge, and I know the Newcastle Baby Box is absolutely taken off this week. I think there was a $7,500 goal I gave to that, and I know a number of our folks, our listeners from across the country, from the Weird Libertarians Network and just through Boss Hog listeners have been giving to that. It's been really neat to watch that tracker move this week. I think they're probably 75% to the way to that goal.
Yeah, they're at like 5,500
yeah.
out of the 75. Yeah.
And I've watched some of our listeners from, I know Christy gave, I know one of our listeners from Louisiana gave. It's been really neat seeing that reach in what this audience can do. We talk about not doing things through government all the time, but doing it as individuals and as an voluntary deal. And that's been a really neat thing to watch. So,
and that was one of the things that we talked about at the end of 2019, where we always talk about things that we can improve upon. That's why we always put out the fundraiser, but the survey at the end of the year to get everyone's thoughts. One big thing that we came up with for 2020 as our resolution, I guess you could say, was we wanted to be more involved in some of the nonprofits and things that are happening in our community and around our community. We did the fundraiser for the Career Center. I was going to present you with
the big check. You got the big check, Dakota?
I was going to present you with a check tonight. I totally forgot it. So
we're good for the money. The check's in the mail.
You were promised the sticker and you were promised the check, and the stickers didn't come in the mail, and I forgot the check. So yeah.
Sounds like the Army.
Sure does.
Yeah.
He's been disappointed before, and he's ready for it again.
Used to it.
I'm sorry I duped you, Chris. But speaking about the U.S. Army, you met a young Chris Guffey in the U.S. Army. Chris Guffey said that you met him in 2007.
Yeah, that was it.
Well.
Well, great story, guys.
Well, we were about to build on it, but Jeremiah just it's got to be so fast.
Very
for him.
abrupt.
Very.
We talked about awkward moments in the Patreon portion.
This
That
is
was
him.
one of them.
Yep. So yeah, we met in 2007. I had just enlisted, and you were in E5, E6 at the time?
I was a staff sergeant.
Yeah, E6. So he's in E6, and here comes Guffey just strolling into the Muncie. The Muncie, what? Det 4? Yeah.
They have Army in Muncie? I didn't realize that.
They do, yeah. So I'm strolling in, and there's Lamb, and I don't know how it happened, but I think at the time you were kind of the platoon sergeant, weren't you?
I was. And so my family, his last name's Guffey also. And
different tribe also
different
from Albany,
tribe.
Kentucky.
Different tribes.
From Albany.
Yeah, of course.
And so I saw Guffey, Newcastle, and I thought maybe.
Yeah.
But so yeah, it was. You were there, what, 2 years, year and a half?
Yeah, I was there for a year and a half because I went my junior year, then I went to basic, then came back my senior year.
So basically, it was a weekend to yell at him and run him around.
Basically.
Push-ups, sit-ups.
Make him great.
Mm-hmm. Basically. Yeah. So, and you just develop a friendship, and
Yeah, absolutely.
so it's kind of nice because
You develop your friendships through borderline abuse.
absolutely.
Yeah, that makes sense.
That's how I'm friends with you.
Exactly. That closes the loop. Dakota's just shaking his head, going, "Yeah, yep."
So
But whenever I looked up your LinkedIn profile, which is where I got everything for the show notes,
So if anything's wrong, it's your fault. That's what Dakota's saying.
Yeah.
I made sure to note that your LinkedIn profile says that you worked in Space Missile Defense Command for the U.S. Army.
I did.
Which, so were you one of the front runners for the Space Force?
No. Well, kind of.
Prelim Space Force.
My last 2 years of active duty, I was in Army Space Command and out of Fort Bliss, El Paso, Texas. And it was a special duty assignment. By job, I was an air defense network engineer. And this was a job that came down, and there weren't many of us that were able to do it. So I went to El Paso for a couple of years and went through a specialized course. And basically what we did, we tracked missile launches all over the world. And the reason it was Space Command, because everything is tracked
Satellite.
down. Yeah.
So did you do any of the work like we're seeing in the news right now with Russia is saying that they have these new hypersonic missiles that they shoot from space? Was that something that was on your guys' radar back then?
No comment.
So that was more of an Air Force thing. The Army, we kept it down low. And,
Okay.
So we tracked everything that went from the ground up. And
Oh,
then
okay.
Also, fast moving aircraft. We would track that. So
Do you think
it was very interesting.
You think we'll have hypersonic manned flights in the near future?
I absolutely think we will.
Yeah.
Hypersonic, not supersonic. You're not talking about the Concorde. You're talking
hypersonic.
about
Yeah.
You're talking about like SpaceX space tourism. What are you trying to? What are you asking?
No,
about?
hypersonic is 7 times the speed of sound.
Okay.
So it's thousands of miles per hour. It's faster than anything that we currently have. And I was listening. There's a podcast called The Future of Everything, and they were talking about hypersonic manned flights, and it was like incredibly interesting because no one currently knows how to do it, but every single world leader says that we're close. So it's just a whole lot of people who are experts in the field trying to figure out, why does everyone keep saying that we're close, and whenever we don't think that we are. So I don't know. I was just trying to see if that was like the terminology for that stuff was around even whenever you were in back then.
No, not at all. It was, we would track, small to medium range ballistic missiles, going from like Iran to Iraq, India to Pakistan. Nothing that high speed.
Yeah. It was something that I heard like 2 weeks ago, and it's one of those things that sticks around in your brain because it kind of blows your mind in the moment. That's exactly what that was for me.
What was neat about that duty, and I was only there for a couple of years, was that we were issued a space operations badge, and it looked like a Star Trek badge.
It's like you were in the very first Space Force.
Yeah. So then when I came back to Indiana and would report for duty, they would ask if I jumped out of the space shuttle or just crazy stuff. And there were only about 50 of us that earned that badge, and then they stopped issuing it. So
Oh, that's really cool.
Very impressive.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So you transitioned from that into the education world.
Yes.
Here, are you from Newcastle originally?
I graduated Newcastle in 1988.
Okay. All right. And then you've had the opportunity to come back and get back into the Newcastle School Corporation.
We moved back here. My wife, I have 5 kids, and we moved back in 2006. I just had gotten back from a deployment to the Middle East, or from the Middle East, in May of 06. Looked at 11 houses in June of 06 in one day, and decided on one the next day. And then,
I can't possibly look at another house for buying it, no matter what.
So, so a couple months later, after we moved my wife and kids so they could start school in August. And then I went back to Texas for a few months and finished my enlistment.
Finish your responsibilities.
Yep.
What made you want to go and get a civilian job as a teacher?
I did a stint as an instructor in the military, and it's very, very similar, lesson planning and classroom management, and I really enjoyed the training piece of that. So when I came back, I really was supposed to take the postal exam for the electronics technician, and the day that I was supposed to take that, my last day in the military, I was offered a full-time teaching job in Newcastle. So it was, I enjoyed it, and it's something I've wanted to do since I was probably 11, 12 years old.
So your teaching job was in IT.
Computer applications. I started out at Henry County Youth Center.
Yeah.
And it was a good fit for me. I just came off active duty, and it's just, I was a non-commissioned officer, and those are the guys that lead troops, and you're there with them, and it was a good fit for me for the kids out at the youth center.
So what kind of computer class were you teaching? Was it just the basics of this is Windows, or was it
really
word processing, or what
there,
kind of stuff
more
were
of
you
a
teaching?
watered down A+.
So it was programming.
Down. No, it's computer hardware software.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. Okay.
So then
Is C plus that's programming.
Programming.
Yeah. Okay. There's my.
You did that for 9 years?
No, I did that. I was there a year and a half, and then a position came open at the Career Center.
Okay.
And actually, the youth center job it fell under the Career Center.
Oh, really?
There were 4 teachers, 4 of us out there. The numbers were starting to go down. And so most of us, when an opportunity became available, we'd snag it. So the one over the Career Center came available, and I started teaching there in 2008.
Was it the exact same type of class that you were teaching?
No, it was definitely it was a solid PC hardware, software, and then intro to networking.
Okay.
2-year program.
All right.
So they would earn a certificate and then be ready to go.
Yep, entry level.
Yeah, go into it, whatever.
Was Robert Hobbs?
Yeah,
was
Bob.
he the guy for the whole time that you were at the Career Center?
Yes.
So he's your predecessor, right?
Right. So
Okay.
he is the second ever Career Center director. Beverly Hankenoff was the first director. Career Center was established in 1972. And,
Really? I didn't realize the history was that long.
yeah. Prior to that, schools were responsible for their own technical training, and it's very expensive to buy lathes and welders,
Welding
and those
equipment,
right?
things
Absolutely.
like that for shop classes.
So, the state of Indiana legislature divided up CTE districts were District 27, and basically that way they developed these districts, and the schools in that county would feed into the Career Center.
You create a co-op essentially of the local school corporations.
And ours is initially started with 5 schools, and now we're up to 8.
right.
So right now you've got Newcastle, Blue River, Shenandoah, Charles A. Beard, Eastern Hancock, Tri. Who else?
Union,
and maybe Hagerstown or who?
Hagerstown, Nettle Creek. Yes.
There you go. Yeah. Man, I'm pretty good at this.
You are pretty good at this.
So, and when I
study?
first started, I had about 260 students, and we're just shy of 600 now. So
600 now.
yeah,
Union's
Okay.
a bit of a trip. Those guys that's a commitment.
yeah,
I mean, they're 10 minutes beyond Blue River, right? I mean, they're 25 minutes in at least.
and we'll sometimes we'll get 40 to 50% of one of their class sizes.
That's amazing.
It's like 11 kids, but
Oh, it is one of the smallest school corporations in the state.
so
but-
when we talk to them, we'll say we appreciate you sending it. You send it percentage wise. You send us the most students out of all of them.
So that you would say that was a pretty good move for the state legislature to divide the state up into those districts.
It's equipment's expensive, and schools, obviously schools struggle, and they probably always have struggled financially. And when we can pull together like that, we're funded through federal grants, state grants, a lot of federal grants though, and then tuition. So the schools pay tuition to send students to us. So,
Okay.
So you go from teaching and being responsible for one class and you're an IT guy, right? You have to worry about IT.
Yep.
And the next thing you know, you're worried about veterinary science and welding.
Yes.
How does that change your world?
So-
All of a sudden, you've got 19 programs, right? At that time, or 18 programs.
18,
whenever.
yeah. So when I left active duty, I had 30 there at the end. I had about 30 soldiers, and in the military, I mean, you're dealing with family issues and financial issues of your soldiers, and I don't want to say I was tired of leading, but I just wanted a little break from that, and so teaching was a good fit for me, and just being in charge of my classroom and not all these world problems, and so I did that for about 6 years, and I enjoyed it. Made a lot of friends, and students that I had 10 years ago, call friends today. But the position and opportunity came available when the assistant director left, and at that time I was like, oh, maybe I want to do something a little different, because in the Army you're always, I was moving every 2 to 3, 4 years.
You're not used to the stasis of 6 years of the same thing.
Yeah. So, so I took the assistant director's job, and I did that for a year and a half. And I say a half a year because Bob Hobbs retired in middle of the year. and I enjoyed it. It was, you really, when you're looking at the big picture like that and you see the different things you're doing with all the programs, and see the successes, just going from a small group of successes to 600 almost. That's
So 600 students?
just shy. Yeah.
And you get them, how many years of school? 2 years or 4 years?
1 to 2.
1 to 2 years.
Yeah, we mostly 2, but we have some programs that are just one, like EMT. It's a 1-year program. Health Careers, it's a 1 year. We started a CNA program, and they can take it as a junior. And we that's a new program we started this year, and typically it takes a few years to fill a class up, and we filled it up in 2 weeks. It was quick.
So.
Yeah.
It seems like it would be incredibly popular.
Yeah, and it's there's a lot of, and these students are typically going to go on to health careers their senior year, and then go into a medical field after that. And it's a good way for them to get their patient contact hours, and to really get in there to see if they're going to enjoy it. We've had students that they do 1 day at clinical and they're like, I'm
out.
Yeah.
So when that happens, do they have the opportunity to, start your senior year and you say, I want to be a nurse, and then they go and all of a sudden I realize I don't want to do a whole year of this.
Right.
What's a student do?
Well, so they would stay. Actually, we keep them in health careers, and it's very broad. I mean, we're talking pharmacy to mortuary, phlebotomy. Just so if maybe they don't want to work in maternity. That's where we've had them, and so we'll put them. We'll say, okay, what's your second choice? And then they'll go to pharmacy.
Mortuary.
Then it's, yeah.
I want to go from
and it's typically
to mortuary.
It's typically the mortuary to something else. So we still keep them, and but what better time to figure that out, that you don't want to do something.
That's where I was going to go with this, is that it's not, you're not spending your first year or two of college and taking classes that are coming out of pocket, and you're accruing student loans, where you realize, I absolutely did not want to get into this.
Well, that's kind of what happened with you, with your health sciences class and physical therapy.
Yeah.
Was that discovering through your vocational class, I don't want to go to school for physical therapy.
And it's broad enough, like the class, whenever I was doing, I don't know how it is now, that like we were learning all the same thing and then just doing clinicals, like that were separate. So like I still learned the same as what all the people doing CNA were doing, or all the people doing phlebotomy were learning.
We do 5 dual credit classes through IB Tech and medical terminology. But if you're doing anything in the health career field, everyone has to know medical terminology.
Yeah. So it's really broad.
Anatomy, physiology. Yeah.
But I had to do physical therapy. I did it the whole year, and I still went to college and thought I was going to do it. And then I was like, no. But
so whenever I did the career center, we did the open houses. I don't know if you guys still do that.
Yes.
And they allow, whenever you're a sophomore and you're thinking about doing taking a career center's class your junior year, you can go to the different open houses and see kind of what they do and meet the teachers and everything. And I went to graphic design, engineering, and the building trades. And I went to the graphic design, and then I thought about it, and I was like, I want to do the graphic design because I have a lot of fun in my graphic design class I was in as a sophomore. I was like, but I know a lot of this, so I'm not going to gain much.
Right.
So then I decided I wanted to do building trades. We walked through the apartment that they were remodeling at the time, and I was like, this is really cool. Like, these guys are building something. So I just decided to jump in there.
So was that the apartment Dave Nance?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dave Nance, yeah. And it was
a great project.
Yeah, it was really cool.
Yeah.
So you can see why as a young sophomore in high school, I was blown away that, hey, next year I could be doing something like this. And then the next
I don't have to be sitting in a classroom all day long. I can actually be contributing to building something.
And we find that those students that are really high academic students, when they come to us, outside of health careers, but if they take a class like a building trades, or sometimes it's hard for them, the hands-on piece, because academically they do real well, taking tests, studying, but to do the hands-on piece, they can struggle. And I think that's where those that were in the reverse, going through school, I think they enjoy that. They shine and,
Well,
Big difference.
In my trade, my hands don't get calloused, right? I'm a salesman. But the folks in my industry and my customers, a lot of them are estimators. So they're people that built, they built construction projects for 15 or 20 years, and they've gotten that field experience. And a lot of times you'll have an engineer that gets into that immediately, that comes in, they become an engineer, but they don't have any field experience.
Yeah.
And that's one of the, if you get guys on a job site, if you get guys on job sites when they're sophomores, juniors, seniors in high school, now you're instantaneously building in that field awareness, which can help them 10, 15 years down the line in their careers.
And a lot of them, in like, for example, machine trades, they'll say, I want to be an engineer, go to Purdue or, but they're getting that practical experience in class, and they can apply it a little better. Whereas most engineers at Purdue probably cannot.
You can make a drawing, but you can't actually install it or operate it or build what's on your drawing.
That was one of the main reasons I did building trades, is because at the time I had this thought where I might want to be an architect.
Okay.
Is what I was thinking I was going to go to college for. And so I was like, I'll do building trades, and then I'll have the trade experience, and then I'll go to school to be an architect. And then I got into building trades, and I really just discovered, like, I even went through like orientation and things at IU East before I was like, you know what? No, this isn't right. And I was talking to Trevor Stout, who was my instructor at the time, and he set me up with a job shadow with a electrical company called Cummins Electric in Richmond. I did that, and then I got on as an apprentice in Muncie. So it became to where it was like, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. So it was like, it would be stupid to spend money on school. I think it's so pushed that you have to go to school that I think that these programs like building trades, like machine trades, like welding, all those are one of the most valuable things that a high school kid can get the experience at doing right now.
When I graduated, I was not a Career Center student, and I regret that. And because I look at the programs we have, and I say, well, I would have really enjoyed doing that. But it all works out, and you live, you learn. But a lot of successes, and we're placing a lot of kids in apprenticeship programs. We have a direct link to the Carpenters Union in Greenwood and the Millwrights Union, that students can graduate into May, June, and be there for a few weeks, and then be on a job site by the end of July.
One of the things we talked about, the number of school corporations you pull from. I volunteer with Henry County 4-H in the Junior Leader Program, and we pull kids. We're one of the only 4-H programs that gets kids from all over the county together. And I think that helps our club with getting diversity. You don't just have Newcastle kids or Knightstown kids. That's something in the high school experience that you guys have that is unique as well, is you're able to pull those 600 kids together in your program from all over the area. And I'm sure that they learn from each other and develop relationships that they probably wouldn't otherwise.
We're talking they're in each other's weddings. I mean, when they you're right, they're 3 hours a day together. So, unlike a typical class over in the high school where you're just there 50, 55 minutes and you really don't get to know, the people in your class. Maybe, in the smaller schools you would, obviously. But to be in a class for 3 hours and also to be in a class where everyone has an interest in being there. Not everyone is interested in being in that math class or that English class, but everyone's interested in being in the building trades class because they've all had to apply. They've gone through an interview and to be accepted, and then they're working 3 hours a day together.
And it's not just in that class either. I have friends that did different classes in the Career Center, but because they were good friends with someone in building trades, we had that, that time between the end of our vocational class and before we had to go back to high school to grab lunch, so that we would see all those folks, and you would eat lunch with those people. And I'm still great friends with a guy that graduated from Eastern Hancock, but he did the broadcasting vocational class. So it's a whole community in the
Does he know about your hit podcast now?
I think so, yeah.
Did you go further in broadcasting than he did? Have you checked up on him?
No comment.
Just picking on him. I have no idea who it is, so I'm just being a terrible person.
Yeah.
I think it might be the same for you, but since we graduated from the same school, but it was so small that I feel like going to Newcastle was almost like the college experience for me before I went to college.
Exactly.
Like you meet different people that you've never seen before, and then you have like bigger classes and like just a bigger campus. I think that was probably the best for me.
So for you, Audrey, you went to everything was housed in Newcastle. So that was your.
Oh, I went to the hospital for my program, but then I had to take pre-cal because it wasn't offered at my school. So I was exposed to.
We don't do pre-calculus at Tri-High.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, it's just the hours that
they only had like one class during the day, so I had to do it at Newcastle. But
so that was my senior year as well. My senior year, I went to the building trades job site for the morning class, and then the afternoon I went to Ivy Tech and took those classes, and then I went to Newcastle High School for the pre-calculus class. So I graduated from Tri-High, but my entire senior year, I didn't step foot in the building.
We have a lot of seniors that are still doing that and doing our class, and then going to Ivy Tech, and then coming back for anatomy physiology or one of the programs at the high school. The schools have a great relationship here in the county, and we've had 15 to 20 county students taking Newcastle classes, and and you would think that, especially now when schools are competing, for students, that would be a problem, but it's overall it's what's best for the student.
At some point, you're worried about the kids, and you let the accounting take care of itself, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Because you're sending them an invoice for the kids anyway.
Absolutely.
The schools are paying for you, so you're covered.
And we're still, we're definitely a bargain for what the students are getting. Health Careers Now is over at the Danielson Center. A couple of years ago, last year, 2 years ago, I stopped having classes out there, and
it's entirely your program.
Yeah, we have CNA and 2 sections of health careers, and the co-op program meets there.
And that was built as a college facility, right?
Yes, it is.
I mean, that's what that building was. That before Ivy Tech located in Newcastle, that was the one location. Yep. When I was 18 years ago or so, when I was graduating, that was the one location I could have gone to college in Newcastle. A lot's changed since then, but it's an excellent facility.
So real quick, I've written it down on the show notes. If you're a Patreon member, you get show notes ahead of time. But I have a list of the 18 different programs that, just for anybody that's listening, you guys have advanced manufacturing. What are your students doing in the advanced manufacturing class?
We're not running advanced manufacturing this year. This really is a manufacturing town, and it has been for over 100 years. But that's a hard class to fill up for 3 hours. And and not a lot of 17 and 18-year-olds have aspirations of being working in a factory
worker.
So, but it's not that, and but it's hard to, Chrysler moving out and all those companies that moved out.
You've such diversity in programs that's not the one that they're choosing, right?
And we have to, the schools are our customer, and we can't have a class with 4 or 5 students in it, and with the expenses that go with that, and so we're not doing advanced manufacturing this year, but we're asking the county schools to pick it up as a 1-credit class, and it's become pretty popular, just doing a 1 hour.
Okay, so that's neat. So the county classes have the option to pick it up.
So all CTE courses that are offered, whether at the Career Center or at the high schools, we manage those, and we assist those schools in setting up pathways, and what course sequence they should be doing to to hopefully lead into a career. And so we give them advice. Computer science is a big one now. And Newcastle started offering it this year, but Eastern Hancock's offered it for 2-3 years. And but they get reimbursement from the state for taking those courses, and they'll ask for our guidance, and we'll say, okay, that's a high reimbursable course, that may be something you want to look at. But you can't always look at the money, because just, like advanced manufacturing, it's a high reimbursable course from the state. But like I said, not a lot of high school kids are really wanting to do that.
Right. So it might not be worth their time.
Yeah. But a lot of times when they get in a facility, then they're like, okay, this isn't bad. We have TS Tech, we have Crown Equipment. They come in and work with our students a couple days a week, side by side, and we do tours of those facilities. And then they start to get it's not that dirty, grimy facility that their parents or grandparents had.
Which I think that Audrey's brother did something in that class, and he took tours of a couple of the factories around here with it.
Audrey has a very concerned look on her face that she should not be expected to finish this story.
I know. And
you talk to him more than I do.
And he got a lot out of it. He thought that the experience was really, really neat. Especially, he loved going to see the Crown Factory, especially because, the Crown Factory being the old, where Chrysler was, is kind of just a local monument.
Yep.
Right, to our
landmark.
City's
Let's say
history.
landmark. Let's be more optimistic.
Landmark. Well, there's a monument there to the old building, but you also have broadcasting that we talked about a minute ago, which is
state of the art studio. Matter of fact,
they got a little bit higher quality stuff than what we have, but
actually more than some radio stations do.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. You need to go there. It's a great program.
Is this an official invitation?
Absolutely.
All right.
Anytime. We have a lot of rock memorabilia there, and
that's fantastic.
We might have to go and do a show during the summertime whenever the kids aren't there.
Well, in the summer we're on autopilot, so there's nobody there.
We just want to break in and play with the equipment. We don't care.
You're
if
the
we're
director.
We can go.
He wants a summer off. Don't ruin his summers by your request for a vanity trip.
I don't get a summer off. I'm a full year employee. So
we also have a connection to the broadcasting with our great friend
Paul
Fabric, who's a good friend of the show. Then you'll have the building trades program, which is of course where I came from, which I still think is a great program.
Our third Habitat House this year. So
we built. We'll get to that story in a second.
We're developing a posse. Mike Broyles also wants to go on the field trip with us, so he's the chat is getting lively with things. Everybody wants to. We're just going to have to rent the Slick Pickle and take a lap around Newcastle.
Yeah, we do. We have to rent it, and then the computer operations class is that the class that you taught?
I did, yes.
Okay, and is that held at the Career Center's building?
Yeah, the main building.
Okay, and then cosmetology.
Our main building, yes.
Do you sub for that class sometimes?
Which one?
Cosmetology.
I sub for all of them.
Yeah.
Today I was in preschool.
There you go.
We had about 10 preschoolers there, and so it's fun.
Yeah,
but cosmetology, that's a blast. I have no reason to go there, but
they can do like facials.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Facials, nails. So, you could have. There's all kinds of things you could have them teach you how to do.
And that would be an awkward moment for me. So when I first became the director, I'm like, I want to get in with the students. I want to be engaged, and I still am. But so in cosmetology, I'd go down once a week and I'd have them do my fingernails, and
better than your toenails.
Yeah. Oh, I wouldn't put them through that. But after about 2 minutes, then it's an awkward moment.
But
you run out of things to say.
Yeah, like we talked about on the Patreon side,
and you can't just drop your fingernails off. You've really got to stay, unlike Patreon where you could have walked away.
And I couldn't pull my phone up to that's right.
Because you got to use your hand.
Another student can come by and hold your phone.
Can
please
scroll,
swipe for me. Yeah,
but we're trying to tell them to not pull their phones out. So it's
But the cosmetology program is really neat because they get a certification, right?
Right. So they have to over 2 years. They have to earn 1,500 hours before they can take
the opportunities there.
Yes, and the last 4 years we've had 100% pass rate on licensure. So the teacher in there, she does a great job.
But it's pretty much dependent on how much work the students themselves want to put into it. Yeah.
And we track it. I mean, she's really good about saying if a student gets behind and, they senior year, at the end of the year, they'll do their practical hands-on exam, and we bring, licensed cosmetologists that are, certified to teach. We'll bring them in and they'll test our students on the practical, the hands-on stuff. And then they'll go down to Indianapolis a few weeks later and do the written examination for licensure. So,
and then culinary arts,
Yep.
which I'm sure is a big hit around your building.
it is. For example, 2 days ago, I go in and there's a pig laid out. I mean, snout, everything. I mean, and we had the executive chef from the Indiana Grand Casino.
I heard about this.
Yeah, and so he did a demonstration on how to prep and process, and then they made sausage gravy, homemade sausage gravy from the pig. Wasn't big enough to have bacon. That's my favorite, is the bacon.
Well, that's a little more involved.
Yeah. So
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
Because I mean, my dad and I have been looking at taking butcher classes together and paying for the classes in Indy. They're not cheap.
no, and we do some adult classes like that at night, and Steve Vitito did the welding, and we're actually going to start barbering in August. Evening barbering class.
One of the barbershops that I frequent is looking for a barber right now.
Yeah,
so there's an instant opportunity
all over. And we brought that up I brought up to our cosmetology teacher a couple of years ago, and she went last summer and got her certification to teach barbering. And
very cool.
So we're going to be able to do it in the evening. So it will be licensed cosmetologists that want to get their barbering endorsement. It's additional 500 hours, but they can test out of a lot of it.
The amount of hours that are required to be
crazy,
a cosmetologist or a barber.
Maybe Clay will finally be able to have a straight razor.
I doubt it.
And that's the hard one, is the straight. They have
Yeah.
I asked her how do you practice that? Because surely you just don't start on a live human. And she said they
use a balloon.
They take it. No, that makes sense. They take a mannequin head and they press Play-Doh on it.
Yeah.
And then that way they can get the angle. And
I have an uncle who went to the Indiana Barber College, and he had a mannequin, and they had it for the whole semester. So you can't go backwards, right? You're just going shorter and shorter and shorter until it looks like something from the kid on Toy Story.
I figured
out of his garage.
I figured it would be similar to like tattoo artists practicing on pigs, on pig skins.
Yeah.
But whatever. And then you also have the dental careers.
2-year program.
Yeah.
Do you have a dentist, or you just have kids work on you?
No, I have a dentist. But I've had students actually work on me in the dental office, because all of our programs typically have an internship component, and those students will go work in the local dentist office. And I went in, and I had one of our students 1 year. She did my checkup and did X-ray, and so it was good moment to photograph and market the Career Center.
Always looking at content.
Yeah.
We think alike.
Yeah.
There's nobody is safe from a selfie with
And
me.
they also get a certification.
So when they do, it's a dental assisting program, and then when they complete the program, they get a certificate of completion, and then they go and work in industry, and after a certain amount of time, then they can get their dental assisting license. But it's all on the job training after.
Okay.
But we do also do that. We bought a 3D imaging camera, or whatever, and so now they're getting a certification in 3D imaging, which is actually a pretty big deal. Neat. Yeah, and we do that for adults also in the evening. That's another one of our adult classes.
Education careers. That's the preschool that you were talking about earlier. My sister, she was part of the education careers class.
Yep.
Now she's at Ball State, and she's going to be graduating this year, and in early elementary education.
Okay.
So
it's a 2-year program, and the first year you can do either the early childhood education, which is like K through 2 or P through 2, preschool through 2nd grade. And then we have the education professions, which is the up through 6th grade.
EMT and public safety.
Yep.
You guys just got the brand new building for that.
Yep. So we were at the old Green Street facility, and it was a nice facility. It was big, and but there's not an elementary school there anymore. And so then we took over the Danielson Center, and I moved EMT there for 1 year, and it was too small for what they were doing. So they were there for 1 year, and then now we're down at the other location. Plenty of room, and they're there with awesome. EMS people. So
yeah, the people who are doing the careers
Yep.
that they're interested in. Let's see, engineering, which we talked about earlier. They're doing they're building a electric car again, right?
Yes.
Hyper efficiency.
we're doing electric. We're doing a gas. We do the battle bots.
Oh yeah, the battle bots.
Mm-hmm.
That's really cool. Facility maintenance.
Yes.
Which our friend Brett Smith.
Yeah.
He teaches that. My first year in building trades, we built Brett's house.
Yes.
So that's how I know Brett.
Hey, you can't forget Brett.
That's a really good perk of work. If you come work there and then they'll just build your house for you.
Yeah, and so we built his house, and then he also had us would hire some of us to come on the weekends, and he helped help him do the landscaping at the new house and stuff. So yeah,
He's a character.
he is. He's fun. He's a good guy. Graphic design we talked about earlier as well. That's a really cool program. If I had taken that, maybe I wouldn't have so many struggles with the videos I was talking about earlier. Health science education. So that encompasses all of them, right?
Yeah, it's
except for
comprehensive.
the EMT and public safety one.
Well, we have health science, and then we have CNA, which is CNA is a separate class.
Oh, okay.
So,
But there's that health science is an umbrella for so many subcategories. So I found out there was a girl who graduated maybe 2 or 3 years after I did, and she was going into mortuary science. And I thought,
yeah.
interesting. Not for me at all.
And that's another one. We had a student a couple of years ago that she just decided she didn't want to do it to work with patients, and it wasn't. So we actually placed her in healthcare administration.
Oh,
And
cool.
So in the office. So it was. I mean, we were, those teachers do a great job finding clinical sites for those students.
Right. So you might not be comfortable working with the patients, but if you're still interested in the medical field, this is what we can do for you.
Yep.
ICE cooperative education.
So the senior only class, and those students, they take their academic classes at their high school in the morning, and then in the afternoon they'll work up to 20 hours a week, or at least 20 hours a week.
What does ICE stand for?
Interdisciplinary cooperative education.
Okay.
That is
Is that
what
what Josh
yeah,
does? Okay.
Audrey's brother
Yep.
is currently doing that right now, and
Dave Allen teaches that.
he works half of his school day at Crazy Horse Hops in Ninestown.
Okay.
So
It's
been great for him.
they get into some sort of a workforce and
Yes.
kind of get to specialize
Yes.
and just
Kids
go.
that hate school is great.
It's just like the building trades thing that we were talking about earlier. Kids that might not excel in academic areas, but do really well working with their hands, finding things that they're good at, and developing a passion for those things early on. It's incredibly helpful.
And then I assume that the company that they go work for, the facility, they've got some structure to what they're doing or what, the time that they're there.
So we have a licensed teacher that manages that program. They come in actually with us 1 day a week, and they turn in all their paperwork, their timesheets, so to make sure they're meeting their requirements, and their evaluation forms from their employer. That teacher, he's even though he's only with the students a half a day, 1 day of the week, the other 4 days he's traveling around,
Just checking in.
Yes, yeah, and he's required to do that. And there's probably one of the thickest manuals that's tied to a class for teachers or administrators is the work-based learning manual. It's like this thick. State.
I'd imagine there's some rules of you
Yeah.
can do this, can't do that,
Yeah.
and
So, and those are all paid jobs. They're nothing unpaid.
And then machine trades,
Yes.
which is another really cool one.
Yep.
One that whenever, as I look back on my high school career, it's something like I loved my time in building trades, but taking machine trades or like welding would have been just as valuable for me because that stuff is like magic to me.
Watching
what they do.
Watching our chat room right now, I know there's a number of machinists that are in here watching and paying attention.
Yep.
Yeah, there's one very prominent one.
Well, there's another one. That I got an uncle in here as well who's a machinist in Noblesville.
That's another. It was a dying class for us about 8 years ago, and we spent about $500,000 and revamped the class and new machinery. And built some great partnerships with Crown and I can't even just so many.
You guys do something with Magna?
Yep, Mike Broyles, his old facility, Magna there in Messick, Messick Road. We have one intern there now.
It's the northern border of Messick. The metropolitan of Messick probably almost gets there. I'm a Messick kid growing up, so yeah, that's
so finicky.
2 cents.
It's close. It's close.
Mike was at the Career Center last week, and he walked past a poster, Student of the Month, and he was at a Magna, and we spelled Messick wrong.
Damn it!
I'm sure that he
MESSICK,
and it's
get it right, people.
There's like 200 words in the paragraph, and he was able to that one.
Yeah.
So
you guys,
Mike and I are from the same cloth. Yeah. I can find it instantaneously if something's horribly wrong.
Marketing and sports entertainment.
Yep,
that's the one we were talking about earlier. That it's at Tri.
Yep, and we've done. The students will work with. One year we worked with an author and worked on his social media, and our students and they really enjoyed it. The students would meet him at Cafe Royale and sit down with him, and we were his marketing team.
Is that Mark Kurtzman?
Yep. Yeah. And his daughter was in our graphic design class, I believe.
Yeah, Joy.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. And she did all the covers for his books, and then the marketing team marketed his books.
That group, I think, has also worked with the Henry County Expo Center and developed some really neat logos and stationery and letterhead, and they went wild with that about a little over a year ago.
Indianapolis Indians. I don't know if there's still a farm team, a baseball team in Richmond. We did some work with them in previous years. So
neat.
Yeah.
And then vet science, which based on your Facebook is your favorite class.
It is.
It's my favorite class. I used to go down there and visit all the time.
Dog therapy. It's my daughter's in that class this year as a junior, and she really likes it. It's great hands-on experience. 2 weeks ago, last week, they were dissecting pigs.
Mm-hmm.
We keep a box of pigs in our storage room.
They're much quieter that way.
And then next month,
you've got pigs in 2 classes. You've got them in the culinary sciences and on the vet science.
And if it wasn't for the formaldehyde, I would like to take it down to culinary. It'd be cheaper. Yeah. And then they do their culinary would do their thing with it, and then we would sell it to staff.
It'd be perfect.
To make our money back.
I mean, so Purdue has that where they have an on-site slaughterhouse, and then they also have a meat counter as well. So they've got the whole thing at Purdue.
I didn't know that.
Yep.
Too bad Mason dropped out.
Oh my god!
But when I taught the IT class, part of my job responsibilities outside of teaching was the network administrator for the Career Center. And during the day, I would send students to classes to take care of minor things. And I always would, when I knew they were dissecting cats or pigs, I would send students down there to take care of an issue. And they didn't, these are the IT guys.
They have
they can play Call of Duty and see that blood on the screen, but they can't handle it when they go and they see, the guts on the table there. So
it's pretty gross.
Yeah, it's fun.
So that's how that's how you take your joy during
that's
the day.
The Army thing. That's the Army piece.
Yeah, go find me some pricky 6s.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah.
And then the last on the list, because it's in alphabetical order, is welding.
Yes,
that's why it's last.
They just got a brand new teacher.
Yep.
Our friend Steven, he ditched you.
Ronnie Perrin is the new teacher, and he's has a lot of great experience, different experience, more fabricating and welding. He worked with a local, I don't say celebrity, Butch Fairchild. I worked with him a lot, and they built classic cars. And anything, welding's welding, and anything to get the student's attention. And, that student typically, they like to mess with their cars and their trucks.
Classic car.
Yeah. So, we're excited. He's never been a teacher before, but he's been in industry. He actually started out in IT, and then he went over to do what he's doing now. He's been doing it about 10 years, but he would host a camp in the summer and bring, students through the camp in a couple days, and just to get some hands on so he has a passion for it.
Are you guys planning on continuing the adult education class?
Yes. Yep.
For that, I've heard nothing but absolutely fantastic things about the adult education welding.
And we run all those through Ivy Tech, and they're non-credit courses, but the students register through Ivy Tech, and then when they complete the course, they'll get it. It's on a transcript. So if they're trying to skill up for their employer, they can take that and show that and some employers actually paid for that course. So,
that's cool. Yeah.
Father, son.
Talk to my employer about that.
I know a number of the other local farmers that I've worked with have gone through as well. I know Mark Wenning went through, and I think there's a number that I've hung out with that have gone through it.
And it's not just adults. 16's the youngest age.
Yeah, I think we may have had a 15-year-old in there,
maybe.
Yeah? But it was like his dad was in there too.
Oh, okay.
So
so it's. I mean, if you are a student, which once again, Audrey's brother, who does the cooperative education, he decided that he wanted to take some welding classes and signed up for the adult education welding class. And I just can't say enough for the opportunities that the Career Center provides young people in the county and the city of Newcastle. It's incredible.
The mentality's definitely changed over the last 10 years. Usually the Career Center was where those students would go that necessarily didn't do well in their I say non-CTE classes, because because our classes are just as academic as any of those classes. If you go to machine trades, they're doing trigonometry,
right?
And welding, they have to, they're learning about gases and just different things. And so I usually say CTE and non-CTE courses. But it's a great experience, and it's really we've really turned it around, especially here. I mean, we've nearly doubled our enrollment in 10 years.
Yeah.
So parents see value in it, the schools see value in it, and the students are seeing value in it. So especially they know that they can get into a high wage, high demand job when they graduate. So
for sure, yeah, and that was one of the big concerns for my parents whenever I said, you know what, guys, I think I'm going to actually sign up for building trades instead of engineering.
Right.
And they were like, you can't sign up for building trades, because they're like, whenever they were in school, it was that's where the kids who caused all the trouble went.
Yep. You have to go to college to be successful. That was the thought. And it's definitely, we still have that a little bit, but not so much anymore. I mean,
I think
really,
public perception has really changed in the last 5 years on that. I think it's been a very big deal.
Yep.
And it was still really big whenever I was in high school. So I think it's been incredibly recent.
Rupert Bonham started talking about trades when he ran for governor in 2012 with Libertarians, and Mike Pence kind of poll tested that and picked it up, and I think he started talking about it and promoting it in Indiana at that time, and really since 2013, 2014, I think the idea and the promotion of it has really become mainstream.
Our health careers class was always popular. I mean, that was, but now, the welding and the machining and the engineering, those are, just as popular.
I got a 4-year degree and then went to work and still didn't make as much as what I thought I should be making with a 4-year degree. A little upsetting. It's fine.
So we have students that we're an early college career center, and we're the third only in the state to earn that designation. And there's a lot of data collection, a lot of visits, and from the endorsing agency that certified us, and through the University of Indianapolis. So what that means is we're offering our students graduate with a diploma type. In Ivy Tech, we do a technical certificate and a certificate in 3 of our programs now, and we're expanding that. So we, the first year we had maybe 8 students that graduated with a certificate or technical certificate from Ivy Tech. Last year we had over 60. I think this year upwards of 80.
Do you know the other schools, the other centers that have that certification?
Up at the South Bend, the Career Center, there's the other one that I know of, and then over at Ben Davis.
Okay. All right. So really big markets.
We're the only rural.
Yeah, we're outkicking our coverage significantly, having that in Newcastle and Henry County.
Yeah. And we do we do not only Ivy Tech, we have a partnership with Vincennes University, and because Ivy Tech doesn't offer everything, so graphic design we have Vincennes dual credit.
I'm a proud Ivy Tech graduate. Okay.
The computer operations, is that still through Vincennes?
No, it's Ivy Tech.
Okay.
So that's a unique. Something we started last year. With the new credentialing that the teachers have to get to do the dual credit classes, welding it's not so. I mean, it's still you have to have the credentials to do it. But when you get into business and information technology, they usually want a master's, and there's not a lot of IT teachers that have a master's degree that want to work for less than $40,000 a year. So we run an online class. So the students come in and they do that. The Ivy Tech online piece, he teaches the curriculum.
Yeah.
And then we have one of the Ivy Tech professors will come in every couple weeks and work with the students, and it's worked out really well. We're doing 14 dual credits in there now. So,
all right. Is there anything else we should be covering here that we've omitted, Dakota?
Yeah. One thing that I think we need to cover is we talked about all the schools that can be put into the Career Center, but Jeremiah was homeschooled. So
I refer to myself as a 6th grade dropout.
We also have the private Christian school here in Henry County. Are those students able to enroll in your programs?
So the short answer is yes. So we have a governing board that just it's like a school board that manages that's over the Career Center, and there's equal representation from each of the sending schools, and they've approved because we don't fill all of our classes up, but they've approved that we can offer that to students that are outside of our cooperative. So, but with homeschool students, the setback could be the tuition. So
yeah, so they have, because the school corporation that the student would usually come from covers the tuition.
Yes,
a homeschool child, parent, whoever has to cover it.
Yes,
is it the same for private school?
It would. Yes, it would be. Private schools, they typically, from my experience, they do not. And we've had just a couple. We have a student that's at Shenandoah now that came from private school over in Anderson, and they didn't want to pay the tuition, so
okay,
they enrolled.
Homeschools pretty much are treated like they're private schools, right? It's the same classification, and since they don't have public dollars attached to them, then at some level the funds have to be there, even though that child would have been eligible for public funds because they don't count towards the count of that school. There's a hole in the budget that needs to be filled.
We have a building trade student this year that came from homeschool. His mother, we went to high school together, and they lived in Indianapolis. They moved back here, but she wanted him to go through the Career Center and didn't want him to go through one of the larger schools in Indianapolis. And he was homeschooled, and he's in our building trades, and he's 14. I mean, it's
wow.
But he's a high school junior.
Yeah.
So it's typically very bright. Awkward moment.
Silence.
There's an awkward moment.
Silence as you try to figure out if Jeremiah is the exception to the rule or not.
My parents raised 3 salespeople homeschooling. I don't know how it happened. We're all wildly different, yet we all none of us boomerang back to mom and dad's house, and three salespeople. One in machine tools, one in construction and one in agriculture. So I don't know.
So when the school sends students to us, the state, and like I said, we manage those CTE reimbursable courses, and all of our programs are CTE reimbursable. So when they send a school to us when they send a student to us and they pay the tuition, the state will actually reimburse them
reimburse the tuition.
Yeah, and sometimes it's equal to or even more than what they've paid to us. So
okay, cool.
Especially if they earn the like a technical honors diploma, there's money tied to that.
So to me, it sounds like there's just absolutely zero downsides, only benefits to the Career Center in Newcastle.
When will you be erecting your Mike Rowe statue? I feel like all of the trade centers probably need a statue of Mike Rowe, so like a doughboy style.
We have another success. We had a Mike Rowe scholarship winner from it was 3 years ago. He's in the Marines now, and I don't know if you remember Judge Kellum.
Mm-hmm.
It's his grandson, and he Hagerstown. So he was another one. His senior year, he didn't take a class at Hagerstown. It was all through us.
That's awesome.
So he went to Ivy Tech the next year to finish. Hit upwards of 50 credits with us. He went to Ivy Tech, did the English and the math and the speech, and then ours. And he did an online one also, and he almost had an associate's degree. So I think he had to go 2 semesters.
That's where I'm
at. Full load one semester, and then like maybe 6 credits the second semester.
Yep,
so.
That's exactly where I'm at with mine. I'm very close.
Our health science students typically leave with 30, 40 plus college credit. So,
yeah, it's not uncommon now to hear about kids that graduate high school with an associate's degree.
Yeah. And it's hard for a rural school to do that. I mean, you really have to plan that from that freshman through senior year. And I don't know if you remember when you were a freshman, you weren't planning that.
No,
I mean, you just weren't. And
it was unheard of whenever I was in high school.
So long ago.
And with the health careers, that's another one. With the Ivy Tech credential, we have a pre-nursing certificate through Ivy Tech, and the students meet all the requirements when they graduate high school, and they can go right into nursing school. And if you're familiar with those programs, you typically don't go right into a nursing program. There's you have to meet some prerequisites, take a TEAS test, and so you have to take a couple semesters of college before you can even apply to nursing school. But our students are doing it right out of high school. So we actually graduated this last May, December. She was 20 and she's an RN. And when she went out with her class to celebrate, she couldn't drink. So she couldn't partake
incredible.
With her. So but she's a full-time RN now.
You also get if based on your performance in the Newcastle Career Center, you also have the opportunity to have a technical honors diploma whenever you graduate high school, and
that's another $750 for a sending school that if a student earns that technical honors, and typically they can only earn that technical honors if they come to us.
You know what? Whenever my son starts going to try, they try out to just do everything for free because I made them so much money.
There we go. Try. All of our schools but Try is just, they're right up there. We get great students from Try, but all the schools, but they understand that it's what's best for the student. So
yeah, for sure it is.
All right, Dakota. You think we should ask Guffey what he thinks? Final thoughts?
I think so.
We should check over there on the producer's desk.
Yeah, I've only got two things really. First, I'm going to take a moment and I'm going to hype up Paige, my girlfriend. And the reason reason I'm going to do this is because
she's real.
She is to a certain few people. So typically Wednesday nights are our date night. We reserve those just for us. We don't do anything with anybody else. And so I'm sitting at work and I get a message.
Minding your own business.
Just working, nothing else. And so I get a message and she goes, "Hey, do you want to bowl tonight or do you want to do something in Indy?" I'm like, "Well, what do you have planned in Indy?" In the back of my mind, I know it's Oladipo, his return to the Pacers. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, is she going to ask me?
Home Depot is back.
Home Depot is back. I was like, oh my goodness, is she going to ask if I want to go to the Pacers game? Next thing I know, well, I can get 3 tickets to the Pacers game. I'm like, well, we could take 2 and then
We could sell one.
yeah, well, we'll take 2 and we'll go. And she's like, well, he doesn't want to split them. I'm like, okay, well. So I asked Mason. Mason's at work. And then I asked Kevin. And next thing I know, Mason's out of work. Kevin wants to go. So now my usual standalone date night has turned into me, Paige, Kevin, and Mason driving to Indy to watch the Pacers play. And Mason had to sit all by him lonesome. It was great. And then, so yeah, I'm thankful that she's willing to sacrifice our typical date night to go watch Victor Oladipo make his return home, sending us into overtime to the win.
He kept you out real late.
It did. I think I got
You
home.
could have
Like,
just scalped that ticket and then used it to gamble.
Could have bet on the game.
I did have a bet on that game, and though he came back, and I'm glad about it, he did cost me some money.
He only scored 9 points instead of 10.
Yeah,
and
he
you were
needed 10.
hosed.
He only scored 9. He went 1 for 7 from the 3-point line, and he's scared to drive it to the paint. Scared.
You learn totally different stuff once you start having money on the game. The things that you didn't care about anymore, now you really care about.
Exactly. And then, the second thing is I'm really excited for our trip to see Bert this weekend.
Bert
in
Kreischer?
Dayton. Yep. There's going to be a big group of us going, and I'm excited about that. So that's all I got.
We'll be signing autographs at the Dayton Hooters at 4:00 if anybody wants to come by. They're what is it? What's the slogan? Tastefully.
They have a slogan.
Yes.
I just go for the wings.
No, there was a somebody will come up with it in the chat.
We should go to Twin Peaks.
Tastefully fresh. I don't even remember what it is. I don't think they have a Twin Peaks in Dayton.
We could try to find one.
Yeah. Chris, did we miss
Go to Indy
anything?
first.
No,
We're good.
I appreciate you having me on, and I definitely appreciate the check.
Of course. Well,
Not
it's
here, but I know we'll
it's
get it.
implied. It's
yeah.
promised. Dakota, do you need to check on Audrey? I feel like
I think she's on the phone.
she may have
out
had the
there.
baby
I
in
can
there.
hear her talking.
I don't know. Maybe she's talking to Jackson.
That's who she's talking to.
So, Lamb, are you not even going to mention the gifts that you brought us?
What
That's what I was about to
I didn't know
mention.
what I brought some Career Center
We got some
spirit
swag.
wear. Yeah, some
right.
hats and some t-shirts and sweatshirt and some fine cigars from my humidor.
From Connecticut.
No, that's
Have a-
Connecticut wrapper.
Okay.
Not from so,
Wow.
I'd seen your.
Are they Old Bay flavored?
I assume that from your picture that with the Boss Hog apparel.
Yes. We appreciate it.
Was that a manufactured cigar or was that a hand rolled?
I have a lot of that picture happened so fast.
Yeah.
I don't know how
Which picture?
the old Boss Hog, the original 1.0
Oh, wow, yeah. That was a while ago.
early on.
So
It was early on in the concept.
these are mild, so they won't make you sick.
All right.
So
Well, I'll give one a try.
I think there's 4 or 5 in there.
And Dakota owes us some cigars here pretty soon.
I do?
Yeah.
Why?
Chris, when a man has a baby, what do you do?
Yes,
That was
cigar. Yeah,
that was supposed to be for that diaper party that I never put on.
That I took a day off of work for, and then nothing happened.
Yeah.
you get
Never
a
got
box.
planned.
and
Delightfully tacky yet unrefined. That's Hooters' slogan.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. There we go.
Yeah, I was going to give a shout out to Chris for bringing the hats, the shirts, the cigars. Listen, our guests haven't been doing great in the gift department lately. But Chris brought it all back around. He brought more gifts than we've ever experienced before. I also wanted to give a shout out to Cade Coger because he commissioned me to make a plaque for a shoulder mount, for a deer shoulder mount, and in the shape of the state of Indiana. And I had trouble from the get-go. So, gluing the pine together, planing it, sanding it, that's fine. That's whatever. It's the same process every time for that. Then I was like, how am I going to draw the state of Indiana so large? And I was like, oh, we'll get a projector. And so Audrey's mom said that she had a projector.
Traced it out.
I got it. It was an older style, so I couldn't hook it up to my computer or anything. So
you have to print it on a sheet.
Then I was like, oh, wait, we have a projector.
There's one here.
Here. So I drove up here and I got the projector. That projector is a piece of junk.
Yeah, we knew it was bad from the beginning.
Absolutely junk. I think that my dad gave it to me. He had.
I'm pretty sure it was stolen from
never
somewhere.
Opened.
Yeah.
He said that he had got it for work or something, and never used it or whatever. And it was like one of those cheap Amazon finds, I think. And so then that didn't work. So then I had to freehand it, the outline of the state of Indiana.
Well, you did great.
I was like, whatever. And it actually turned out pretty well. It wasn't that bad. My old shout out to Mr. Custer, my art teacher in high school. And then after that, I was like, all right, the hard part's done. I'll just stick it on my scroll saw, which is like a bandsaw, but it just goes up and down. It's not a band, for those that don't know. And I was like, I'll just move it around. My scroll saw was too small.
That's a lot to turn.
Yeah.
That's a big board.
Well, the scroll saw is good for turning, but there's so much weight on the back end because it's so large that it just kept binding the blade. So I had to get out a little jigsaw.
Did you do it by hand? You start hand cutting?
My jigsaw worked pretty well, but it was very stressful to build it because
the next thing you know, you cut Evansville right off. They just fall off into Kentucky.
It's extremely stressful, and like the sanding was extremely stressful, sanding around all those tiny parts. I did most of it by hand, and but it turned out really, really well.
So the pictures of the board are on the Beezer Creek Restoration page, and then Cade shared the final view.
Yeah, so big shout out to Cade because it was if I had the idea to do it for myself, I never would have tried it.
So you're now dabbling in this, and they can be commissioned.
Oh yeah,
you want such an item.
Listen, I've had it. This has happened a couple times that I've been pushed out of my comfort zone with these projects, and it's always turned out okay, but it's it's just one of those things you just learn step by step. Like I have a good foundation in building things, so it's once you have that foundation, you can expand on it and go, oh wait, no, this is how it's actually supposed to happen. And there's learning curves. Sometimes you have to waste the first couple of them, and then you learn from your mistakes. But never would have been able to do it without your career center,
your background, and how you got there. So about 3:00 this afternoon, there was some big news. This is my final thought portion. Some news that came across. Andretti Autosport sent out a message to the world saying that John Andretti had passed, and he's a guy that was obviously a race car driver from Indiana and had a background that was as diverse as anything you could get. Guy ran the 24 Hours of Le Mans in France. He ran the Bathurst 1000. He ran he won the Daytona 24, the Rolex 24 in 1989. Started the Indy 500 13 times. Won 2 NASCAR races. He was a drag racer. He's the most versatile driver of his era. He wasn't a champion in all of these series, but he was at the top of every level, right? From dirt cars to just across the board. So really an accomplished racer, and from Indianapolis. And my fandom of racing has been no secret for a long time on this show. And that actually goes back to AM radio in Indianapolis, Dave Wilson and his show on WIBC. And because John was a local Indiana guy, he would call in once a week and talk about what was going on in the NASCAR world. And through that radio show and the communication and through this medium, through broadcast, you really get to know somebody and appreciate them. That connection that you get is phenomenal, and it can start, and it can really start relationships whether you know them or not. So, Dave would have John on. John was a NASCAR driver, and he was generally just a genuine guy and funny. And somewhere along the line, Dave Wilson, Joe Stasiak, who played for the Colts, he was the sports guy, and their producer, they said, you know what? They were just John would run bad. He would finish 9th. And the producer Chris over here said, I could beat you. I'm better than you. So 23 years ago, John Andretti and these guys got together and they started a go-kart race. They raised $4,000 the first year in a race for Riley Children's Hospital. And they had fun, and it was a live remote thing. And then John's sponsors started getting involved, General Mills, Cheerios, Kroger, and it grew and grew and grew. 23 years later, they raised $4 million for Riley Children's Hospital. Wow. So amazing. And in addition to that, John was he was involved with St Judes Children's Hospital. Had a real appreciation. His last Indy 500 was 2011, the 100th running of the race. So there's a book on the table here called The Stinger. And John had a car built and he drove it around to in his trailer. And he got every living driver to sign it. Everybody, right? So Mario Andretti, AJ Foyt. If you started the Indy 500, your signature was invited to be on the thing. And they sold it at auction in 2016 for $1 million for St. Jude's.
Jeez.
Wow.
So the guy raised $5 million for charity. So
Awesome.
a couple of years ago, he was diagnosed with cancer. So that's what the Check It for Andretti shirt is that I'm wearing. So just rough to lose him, but really cool for our community. Big deal for Newcastle. For 17 years or so, that race for Riley took place here in this town, right? It was Newcastle, Indiana. So just feel for the family, feel for the fans, the race fans, real community. A lot of my good friends in motorsports came from John and the community around him. So feeling for those guys, recognizing it. It's a big deal for a lot of folks in Indiana, and just a real shame. So genuinely a good dude, more than just the racing. Big loss for the community. So that's what I got. Audrey, you got anything from the final thoughts?
No.
No, we good. All right. We will be back next week. I think we have our defense attorney on.
Liberty Defenders, Sean Rao.
Episode 149 coming at you next Thursday.
Thank you for listening to the Boss Hog of Liberty, which is part of the We Are Libertarians Network. I am Chris Spangle, and I am the founder of this network, and I invite you to listen to all of our shows, which you can find at WeAreLibertarians.com or by searching for these in your podcatcher. The flagship show is the We Are Libertarians podcast, where we apply libertarian principles to current events. The Brian Nichols Show is a conversation amongst Republicans, Democrats, Libertarians, Independents, as they talk about what is happening in the news. And we have many other podcasts like The Chris Spangle Show, Upward, The Cost, Raw Audio Politics, Miranda's World, and Tad Talk, which is quite a ride. So check all of these out. Go to WeAreLibertarians.com and you can check out all of our great podcasts. Thanks for listening. Thank you for listening to the We Are Libertarians Network. Get our other shows at WeAreLibertarians.com.